Grow, Sell, and Retire is the podcast for the lazy overachiever. B.D. Dalton, author of True Gravity and Grow, Sell, and Retire, is here to give you his 25 years of secrets, tips, and systems to take your business to the next level. This is your chance to find out what is working in sales, marketing, and running your business. If you stop learning, you stop burning. Now, here's your host, BD, with today's GSR podcast.
Hey everybody, BD Dalton here from the Grow, Sell, and Retire podcast. Today, bringing you my interview with a guy that knows a lot about artificial intelligence, about fintech, that means financial technology, and he's setting up a company to look at the future of money, to look at different ways to invest in cash, to make sure that you're using blockchain and cryptocurrencies to make the world a better place. Chris Hurd, he is very, very knowledgeable. He won a competition to be the CEO of Skyscanner. My gosh, you know what? I use that all the time just to track and figure out where all sorts of things are for my planes, for everything else, for travel. He definitely has a lot of followers. The reason I brought him on is because I'm a CEO at a law firm, working with them, and an article that he put out was why lawyers will be killed by blockchain first and then machine learning. My gosh, you know what? If that isn't just a scary statement to anybody that's running a law firm or a services firm, then I don't know what is. So I want you to sit back. I want you to think about, we talked about blockchain, we talked about all sorts of stuff with Simon Barry, with Sally Eves, with all sorts of people. But I want you to listen to this. Chris Hurd is going to walk us through where he thinks money is going, how technology is going to work with us on that, and why people are so fearful of blockchain, of artificial intelligence, of everything that happens out there that they don't understand. So Grow, Sell, and Retire listeners, I want to make you the lazy overachievers that you need to be and inform you about great things that you need to know about that are going to be affecting your life for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years and into the future. So listen to my interview with Chris Hurd. Chris, welcome to the show.
Hi, BD.
How are you doing?
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good from a rainy Scotland.
Rainy Scotland. Well, we just got kind of drizzle here in Birmingham, so we'll see how everything else goes. So, what got you into blockchain, crypto, all that type of stuff? What actually got you to it?
Yeah, so I guess I spent a lot of time studying the peer-to-peer economy and sort of understanding ways which technology was going to disrupt the job market and sort of change the economic paradigm of the day. And at the same time, I was studying a lot of economic theory, monetary policies, understanding central banking regulations and all this fun stuff. So I think when you start to go down that rabbit hole and you understand where technology's at today, I think blockchain is an almost sort of natural progression of that. And you begin to see that, well, the dollar and any money in general hasn't been worth the money it's been printed on for the last 100 years. And I think that's something that surprises people. They think, oh, well, surely there's a block of gold I could get from the Federal Reserve for X amount of dollars or X amount of pounds. But actually, it's not been the case since basically 1931. So, yeah, I think the sort of confluence of those factors just sort of made me think, well, actually, is there anything that's going to come in and disrupt money, basically? And yeah, blockchain and cryptocurrency seems like it's doing that. And obviously, as it becomes sort of wider and more publicly accessible, I think it's going to do it more and more.
So if things aren't based in assets anymore, and you know they are, but they aren't, especially when it comes to currency, why is this blockchain, and I know blockchain and crypto are separate entities, but what makes it such a crossover because people don't understand it, and what makes it such a mystery?
So I guess in my mind, blockchain is such a mystery because people fundamentally don't understand almost any sort of technology, and understanding something actually takes a lot of effort, whether that's reading or hard research. And most people typically aren't worried about doing the legwork. They'll read an article, they'll hear something from a friend, and they'll assume something based on that. But actually, I think when you begin to read, whether it's the Bitcoin white paper or the Ethereum white paper, and even people in crypto and blockchain, I think you'd be surprised by how few people have actually done that type of simple research. And yeah, look, in this space, everyone's going to have their own opinions about where the technology is going, why it's arisen. But actually, there's a serious disconnect between what people think they know and what people know. And I think in crypto, people don't know what they don't know, and they're not actually asking themselves the question as to why things have developed the way they have.
And so when you look at this, and because we talk about crypto, but what if you were to describe blockchain in general, what could people compare it to in something? And besides crypto, what are people using it for? What would you see the future? Because the reason we're talking is because I saw your article. I run a law firm, and I saw your article about that AI and machine learning will destroy law firms. So I thought that was it was very interesting, and I can agree on lots of points that you had in there. But it's just, so where's blockchain kind of come from, going, and then besides crypto, how do you see it affecting the business world?
Yeah, so in the simplest sort of guise, to me, blockchain's a decentralized ledger. There's no difference between a company 100 years ago that had all their information in a black book, which basically told all the business details of the incomings and outgoings. The only difference is that it's decentralized and it's publicly accessible. So everybody can see every transaction. It's immutable because people can't change the chain that's gone before the current block. And to me, that's revolutionary. So obviously there's centralized versions of that, whether it's Oracle databases, AWS databases, SQL databases. To me, blockchain's fundamentally different in that it's immutable. People can't just decide to change things, and it will exist for as long as that chain of data is valuable to somebody else. To touch on another point, I think the way that it disrupts technologies is that it creates new paradigms. And I think what you see with almost every sort of new technology that comes on the block is that people try to reinvent what currently exists for that new technology. And yeah, there's a lot of people sort of trying to fit their business model into blockchain just now, but to me it's kind of disingenuous, and it doesn't really work. It's just sort of exploiting the buzzword to make people more interested in what you're doing. So I think when I break it down, I see sort of 4 key areas or buckets in which people will use blockchain. There's obviously distributed infrastructure and there's distributed applications, and that's what I'm talking about in that instance, the recreating what exists in a new guise. But then there's the other side of the thing, which is smart contracts, which is what you talk about with the law stuff, and sort of reinventing money more generally. And to me, that's what's revolutionary. It's creating things and products and services that never existed before or weren't possible before because the technology didn't exist. So smart contracts are really interesting, particularly for lawyers, I imagine. And you can pre-program into them certain actions based on certain things. So that might be an Internet of Things product telling a contract to pay a supplier when a truck goes over a certain geographic location. And I think when you begin to think of that, and you can say, well, that's one instance. What about a scroll without the intermediaries? And you can build out that branch or that tree of alternative things which currently need a human interaction. In the future, there's not going to be a human interaction. And I think money is similar. What we said before about there being money's not asset backed. Well, cryptocurrency can be asset backed, or it could be commodity based, or it's based on proof of work systems, or proof of stake algorithms, or proof of savings algorithms. And these things are fundamentally different to what currently exists in money, and fundamentally to what currently exists in the technology of law and contracts and so forth.
That's crazy. So then along that line, that took you to creating your company, Nexves, right? So, yeah. And so explain to us a little bit about where that is and how people can engage with it, or how you would hope that they would engage with it in the future.
Okay, so in my mind, banks suck. You break down what expectations or needs you have from a bank, and actually there's been very little change in the last 300 years. I think interest payments are borderline offensive, if not illegal. The fact that interest rates are below inflation means that if you have £1,000 in your bank, this time next year you'll have 1,015, but because of inflation, you need 1,030 just to break even. So interest doesn't work as a reward for warehousing your capital. At the same time, you look at all the data that we create, and outside of Facebook and Google, what entity has more actionable information on you than your bank? I mean, it knows where you go, it knows what you spend, it knows how often you spend on things, it knows what you subscribe to, it knows your habits, it knows your inclinations. What do they ever do to sort of reflect that back on us and make it useful? So I think our overall vision is to say, look, everyone needs a bank. What expectations can we alter for mass consumer benefit? So the simple one is interest. And you look at something a little bit different, but just sort of follow me on this one. By law, there's asset classes that 99% of people can't access, that are reserved for the richest 1%. And people ask why the sort of wealth gap continues to spread. Well, the obvious reason is that there's legislation in place to stop you, me, 99% of people investing in the most fruitful asset classes. And that's startup investment, as private equity, commercial real estate, etc., etc. So we're looking to do something innovative around asset classes most people can't access and democratize access to that so we can provide people with more wealth opportunities. So instead of getting interest, you get tokens, which basically equate to fancy club card points and ownership of these companies and equity in these things. And that's really interesting because I think it creates a hard digital currency which enables us to do a number of things in a digital economy. The second sort of aspect of that goes back to the data part, and it's to say that if you have got satellite television and you pay $100 or £100, and I've got satellite television and I pay $50 or £50, our bank knows that. The problem with it is that the data is not intelligent because our bank doesn't know if we've got the same service. So by creating the digital currency in the first instance, we can pay you in that to reveal that data to us, and then we can benchmark all consumer spending. So if you're paying more than me for a service, I can tell you how much more you're paying and how you can save it. And sort of following that through, eventually we'll create a premium version of that whereby we'll do that on your behalf. So any recurring expense, whether it's your house insurance, your home insurance, your mobile phone, your satellite television, basically anything eventually will instantaneously be able to switch you to the best deal, and you'll always know you're paying the best deal for it. You're getting the best deal for everything. And that starts to ask the question to say, look, a bank right now is a utility, but what if a bank's a platform like Uber or Airbnb, and we can exploit the excess capacity of a network of individuals acting together as a swarm? And the digital currency lets us sort of incentivize that and control that. And I think if you think of that at scale, well, what if we had 100,000 people sharing on their social media that they should all download an app? Or we have 1 million people going to a supermarket and demanding that they stock a consumer brand that we own. Well, what that allows is people to own things and influence the growth of it through their own actions. And I think actually that's really revolutionary. And
so it's democratized currency, essentially. Is that?
Yeah, it's basically creating a hard asset-backed digital currency to create or incentivize actions in a network. And we can create a whole bunch of other things off the back of that.
Wow, very cool. And so what besides your studying of the banks and thinking the banks suck and interest is illegal, which are awesome points, but what actually made you say, you know what, now I need to be the maven for this, the person that's going to take it forward?
Yeah, so about a year ago, I was going through the process of deliberating what I wanted my next career move to be. And I'd done a lot of things up to that point. I've got an architectural degree, which doesn't really fit with what I'm doing, I realised. But I was working with startups. I was project managing large multinational construction projects internationally. I was helping a venture-backed startup grow across a whole nation. I was writing at scale. I was being published on some influential places. And I was actually sort of consulting for a lot of large brands and advising them on their blockchain and differentiation strategy. So about a year ago, I was interviewing for associate partner positions at VC firms across Europe. I was interviewing at sort of some of the largest American startups. I was considering whether I wanted to go to the States and do an MBA, and I had the offer of investment and a few other startup ideas that I had. So yeah, I had a lot of options to go and do something where I'd have been paid a lot of money, and the natural thing that you do then is give up your salary to start up a startup. Which doesn't sound like the smartest thing in the world to do, but I think it's something that I was really passionate about. And there was a number of other things happening at the same time that compelled me to do it. There's the open banking regulation. There was the rise of cryptocurrency and blockchain. And yeah, a confluence of factors just made it feel like right now was the time to bring something to market for mass consumer benefit. And that's really what we want to do, is we want to help people be smarter with their money and actually expose them to wealth services they can't currently access by law, which is outrageous.
And so if you're looking at this, and we're talking to business owners now, but business owners are individuals, so a better system of currency would be amazing. What if we're looking at basically blockchain as a technology? If there are 2 or 3 types of companies out there that really should consider using blockchain to make themselves more efficient, or spend the time and energy and possibly money, what type of firms should be looking at that are in the small to medium space?
Yeah, to me, that's the hardest question. So right now I'd be asking, probably I'd be contrarian in that and say, the question isn't which business works with it or which business can exploit it. It's which business shouldn't even use it, because there's no point. And I think when you go down that rabbit hole, there's a great number of things where blockchain isn't applicable. What they're really wanting to do is just another version of a database, whether it's Oracle or SQL. And I think it's really, really easy to be sort of seduced by the allure of some sort of revolutionary technology and think that it's going to help them. But actually, I think when you break it down, there isn't many things, because everyone's looking at it through the prism of what currently exists. So I can think of a number of things, whether it's sort of in the oil and gas supply chain, where you can track materials from raw material to third-party suppliers to subcontractors to inspection offshore. That makes a lot of sense, because you've got an immutable ledger of data that people record to, and you know that it's always going to be there. There's things like transport containers. I think it would be applicable to that, whether it's transporting goods across oceans, things like that. And yeah, right now I think blockchain's in an interesting space that nobody actually knows how useful it is for the things that they want to use it for. So like you say, you can spend a lot of money developing solutions for things that isn't going to be profitable, isn't going to be worthwhile. And to me, that's super dangerous. And that grows from sort of a reluctance to be bolder. And I think that's why we'd encourage business owners to be is, like, you know what currently exists. You know you could potentially incrementally improve what currently exists, but think bolder. Think of the bigger problems that you want to solve. And then I think blockchain becomes more interesting, because actually you're not just trying to recreate a more efficient wheel. You're actually trying to create something which is fundamentally different from what exists currently, or it wasn't able to exist before.
And so do you find that a lot of people right now, I think we alluded to this at the very beginning, which is there's a lot of people out there that are claiming to be blockchain or cryptocurrency specialists that are charlatans, for lack of a better word, is that they know a little bit and they're just trying to get people into a shell game.
I think it's such an early time in industry that if anyone's trying to claim they're an expert, they're a liar. I don't think it's existed long enough for somebody to be an expert on blockchain right now. And they might fundamentally understand the technology. They might understand why it's developed, where it's developed from, its potential. But I think anyone sort of proclaiming themselves to be some messiah in the space, they're lying to you, and they're trying to pull the wool over your eyes.
And so, kind of going back to that now, that we've seen, because you talked about people believing that the dollar is asset backed or possibly asset backed by gold or things like that, with Bitcoin going up and down in value, or Ethereum going up and down in value a little bit less, but is that more of a gamble on the back of a great technology, or currencies you don't see fluctuate like that unless there's nuclear war or complete deregulation or decentralization of their bank? So how do you control your wealth from going to zero or in half in a 6-week period, like it would have with crypto from Bitcoin from 14 down to $6,000 a coin? How do you use it versus a gambling mechanism versus a currency?
I think that's a valid point. Is that right now crypto's in a space where the volatility precludes its use as a stable currency, and I think that's fair. I would counter that a little bit with looking at what's happening in Venezuela, look at what's happening with the Turkish lira. Obviously, there are certain currencies which are more stable than others. The dollar, the pound, the euro. These are sort of fairly stable, although you're going to get volatility between the two of them depending on economic or geographic or political circumstances of the day. So Brexit caused the dollar to rise massively against the pound. And you see the same things with Bitcoin just now, just an even greater extent because it's so early. But I think once you begin to see sort of institutional players move into the space, and there's obviously derivative mechanisms being developed right now, which I think is going to look, crypto, I'd be surprised if it's not volatile and for the next 10, 15 years. And there's obviously stable coins and stuff just now, but institutional involvement helps. And yeah, it's one thing to say that we're going to get to some crypto enabled future, but I think what's important to remember is that crypto's only maybe at 1% adoption just now. So much of the rises and troughs come from that. And I think as the adoptance curve rises, the volatility will become less, and that'll mean that we have easier ways to spend it. And right now, that's a fundamental issue. It's not a lot of people know how to buy, hold cryptocurrency. Not a lot of people know how to exchange it. But I think the sort of responsibility and onus on innovators is to develop solutions that the wider public are comfortable with. So that's innovating around products and services they're already familiar with, maybe.
And how would, just for fun, how would somebody hold cryptocurrency? Because you see sometimes when you're walking down the street, you see a corner shop or something that says, you can use Bitcoin here. Or how do people, because people are used to, the evil empire of Apple Pay or Google Pay or, things like that. So how would somebody possess and use Bitcoin for regular purchases?
There's not a lot of ways to use it for regular purchases just now. So obviously there's the exchanges where you can buy it. But right now, fundamentally, cryptocurrency is a store of value. To use it, you still need to exchange back the fiat. And then obviously you spend it in a debit card like you normally do. So yeah, there's a lot of obstacles to overcome with respect to that. But I think you are seeing some Visa cards emerge whereby you can hold your worth in Bitcoin, and when you spend it, it exchanges then. So yeah, there's probably going to be things that emerge like that. Obviously, Revolut are probably a pretty good example of you go abroad, you spend money, and it just automatically takes care of the FX fees. It doesn't matter if you've got pounds in your wallet or euros or dollars, whatever country you're in, it automatically exchanges and deducts the value, and it's all good. So yeah, we're a long way away from that, but I think that's the trend you'll see crypto probably push towards in the next 5 to 10 years.
Very cool. So besides the things we've talked about, what are your other favorite disruptive technologies that you've seen right now, or that you're talking about a lot more?
The thing that fascinates me most right now is probably AR. There's a number of reasons for it. I think most people sort of get hung up on VR probably more than AR, but actually AR is a lot more interesting to me because it's it's in the human world. And yeah, I think at heart I'm a massive cyberpunk, and probably things like Snow Crash and Neuromancer and Ready Player One have influenced me as much as any sort of non-fiction book. And there's a fairly influential piece of work that Ted Chiang wrote, a short story called, I actually forget what it's called, Liking What You See, I think. And it sort of portrays this future that's completely Instagramized. So people wear, whether it's contact lenses or glasses, and basically people are able to alter how they look, how people perceive them. And actually I find that super interesting. So in jobs where there's cognitive biases which actually need impartiality, whether it's policing or other things, I think AR that can remove that's super interesting. And actually I don't think that's a million miles away. Whereas I think VR is a little bit more independent, solo. You're in this world, but you're not having much human contact. So yeah, AR is to me the most interesting disruptive technology people are exploring just now.
Cool. And how did you get to, and this is on my notes, but the show notes. So how did you get to win a competition to be CEO of a £1 billion company?
Yeah, that probably just comes from a part of me that I think's broken. That most people assume that the people at the top of the tree are the hardest people to talk to, and I think they're reluctant to reach out to people and make suggestions or ask questions, and they think they're going to get rejected or they won't get a reply. And to me, that's the issue, is that what's the worst thing that can happen by reaching out to somebody you admire or somebody that's the CEO of $1 billion enterprise? The worst thing is that they say, no, I don't have time, or they don't reply. So what do you have to lose? And yeah, that was a big multinational competition. I think there was something like 10,000 entrants, but I was the only person that entered and emailed Gareth Williams, the CEO, with a number of suggestions as to how he could improve the platform, the changes he could make, the ways he could expand sort of horizontally to get more of a customer base, the ways he could exploit the attention that his consumers were giving him at the time they were booking flights and stuff. So yeah, in actual fact, I just got an email from another CEO of the biggest, the biggest wealth fund in the UK, telling me that he wanted to have a call just 2 minutes ago on this call. So yeah, that's just something that's wrong with me, I guess.
That's cool. No, telling people what's wrong. It's a good thing. Nobody likes to hear it. Constructive criticism, or if they're really good, they love to hear it and try to do something about it.
Yeah, and actually, I just think CEOs have it really hard. Like when you're the public face of a company, people are actually scared to talk to you about certain things. So actually pointing things out to somebody who's used to people just saying, "Oh, this is great, things are fine, the product's amazing," that's actually massively valuable and massively helpful. So like an impartial overview of something you've created with no sort of incentive, whether it's that you're employed by them or you're being paid to consult on it, that's actually massively helpful. So I think to just touch on this as a sort of way to get feedback, or maybe to talk with people that are like Gareth Williams, just offer these guys value. If you can offer people value, they're often willing to give you far more value back in return.
That's cool. So general questions now. So what goals do you have in place for late 18 or 19 for you?
We're just trying to push code. We need to get a product to market and sort of just get user feedback on how things are going to go. We've got about 1,000 people signed up, ready and desperate to begin using the platform as it exists. And actually, with who our investors are, we've got a really compelling reason that I think we can get to 100,000 users within 12 months. And once we get to that scale, a number of other things start to happen. But right now, yeah, it's all about pushing code, getting a product to market, getting feedback, seeing where we go from there.
Cool. So that's Nexves. So making that happen, right?
Absolutely.
Cool. And then so the next question was, what project you're working on? Sounds like that's the project that you're working on, unless you've got a book or something else out there that I don't know about.
Nah, we're just trying to push code. We're trying to build the bank of tomorrow, and that takes up a lot of time. And yeah, it's hard, but it's massively rewarding. And I think it distills down to the essence of why we're trying to do it. We want to help people. We want to give people value back they're not currently getting from elsewhere. And I feel like that's something that people want to dispute. They want to say, surely there's something more to it than that, but there's not. Like, solve people's problems, and that's where businesses are. Businesses are at the intersection of people's problems and their needs. And if you can not just meet their needs, but actually do something that exceeds every expectation, that's where the best businesses in the world come from.
Cool, Chris. And then what you talked about augmented reality or whatever you're doing right now. So what's your favorite piece of tech right now that's enhancing your life or making it more fun or easy?
So this is probably where I'm a little bit contrarian. I'm actually not a big tech guy. I've been trying to technologically devolve for a while. So I went from a smartphone to a dumb phone. I check my emails far less than I used to. I try to spend as many hours each day away from the computer as possible. And I try to even just read in books instead of Kindles. So yeah, I think as everyone's sort of being seduced by the allure of technology, actually there's massive benefits that can be gained from pulling yourself away from it, whether that's just focus on what you're trying to do. And yeah, to me, focus is a massive differentiator in a world that's trying to distract you everywhere you look. So maybe not the best answer in terms of what's the best technology, but yeah, that's me.
No, that's cool. That's actually lots of fun. It's interesting to hear everybody's answers each time. Some people are like you, and some people are really, really geeked out, and some people are just I just like my iWatch or whatever. It's just whatever it is. But it's always fun to hear how people are doing, especially when their whole world is based around technology. So, and then how can we learn more about you? It'll be in the show notes, but where's your favorite place for people to find out more about you?
Probably on Medium. I think I've written something like 600 articles on there now. I'm fairly active on Twitter and LinkedIn, not as much as on Medium, or just on Nexves.com.
Cool. Nexves.com. Be there. And then the very last thing is, and this is always if somebody just listens to the very last second, what valuable quick-fire tip can you give to a business owner when it comes to making them, and we call ourselves lazy overachievers? What's your quick-fire tip to everybody? And it doesn't have to be super tech. It doesn't have to be anything else, but your quick-fire tip.
Probably the thing I always come back to is that it doesn't matter how many times you fail, as long as you don't the last time you're willing to try.
Keep getting back up. That's cool. And so thank you very much for taking time today, and looking forward to watching the Bank of the Future come up, and definitely we'll be following you and looking at that, because that was very intriguing, the way that the use of the negativism to make sure that people will look and say, okay, well, is AI going to really do this, or is blockchain really going to do that? It's very intriguing. So thank you so much for your time, Chris.
Awesome. Thanks, BD.
Thanks for joining us on Grow, Sell, and Retire. For more information, tools, or to book one of our team members to work with your team, business, or to speak at your event or conference, visit bartdaltonconsulting.com or email contact@bartdaltonconsulting.com. Buy the book True Gravity on Amazon. If you want to work for the rest of your life, that is your business. If you don't, that is ours.